Hello everyone and welcome to BFG Woodworking. On this video we're going to look at turning the cheapest tool trolley I could find into a usable, good looking bit of equipment. So come on, join me on this journey, we'll see how we get on.
5, 4, fun. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
So all this started was as I needed a place to put my oscillating sander. I needed a decent height, so I started looking at some trolleys with drawers. Cheapest ones out there were £130 for. I mean, they were the cheap of the cheap. So then I looked at like just normal like parts cart. Again, for a good one, they were looking £70–80. Then I thought about building one and pricing that up. What 18mm ply is about £40 for a good sheet at your big box store. And then you've got to be able to build it and make sure that's firm enough and solid enough to support the weight of this and whatever else you're going to put in it. I think I could do that. But then when I was looking at my ply, I saw that trolley. 30 quid. Cheaper than a sheet of ply. Someone's already done the hard work and all I have to do is bolt it together. I can then basically do the same thing I would have done with a cabinet by adding some drawer runners. Amazon, a couple of quid a pair. It's got some black screws to go with that black and red theme. That'll make it look just as good, I hope, and I envision, as something £130 plus, but for probably less than 50 quid. And then you can customize it to how you want it. So I'm going to add some magnetic tool holder bits to it. I'm going to make sure the drawers are designed in a way to fit everything in. Now, building a cabinet is one thing. Drawers, completely separate. We've all built boxes. That's basically all we're going to make a box with out the top and then attach it in. So it should be quite a simple thing for people to do. But join me on this journey. We'll see how we get on. Let's crack on, get measuring, get cutting some ply. What I've got is a bit of 18mm ply. I'm using 18mm just to give me enough holding power when I screw this down, stop this from wobbling about. All I've done is just marked around it, just drew around the base. Instead of me trying to get a tape measure and measure this, it's very unwieldy. I can then just measure them pencil marks there. And then I can then measure the top. I know I've got enough space. I mean, it is plenty wide enough, but might as well just make sure. The depth of it is a lot deeper than the actual trolley. So I want to try and get everything centered just to make sure it's all balanced out correctly. Then I know how much I need to cut off for the width. So yeah, that's that bit done. I'll move it to the side and we'll get on with drawers. So I've just brought the trolley onto the bench here just to help me measure it a bit easier. Even though these have got deep shelves in here, obviously the drawer can't go inside because we've got these lips. So the actual height maximum is going to be these two bits here, which is 250mm, and width is 595. Now your depth is going to be determined by how long your drawer runners are. Now the maximum you can have is 345. I've gone with 300, so that's basically how deep I just need to make my boxes. The only thing we will have to take into consideration is these lips on these angles, because obviously you need a flat piece inset into here so you can affix your drawer runners. So depending on what material you use, you're just going to have to build it up so you can get that flush with this bit here so your drawer runners can fit in there properly. So now I've got them, I can crack on and start cutting. What I'm going to do first is establish a reference edge, so a straight reference edge that's square. If not, I'll have to cut one with the saw. So I've already measured this and that isn't square. This one is. So that's going to be our reference edge for the fence when we take these through the table saw and cut our strips for our boxes. So I'm just going to mark that as our reference edge. That's our square edge right there. So a quick little tip here when measuring out the width of your box. Now we know we're measuring the distance. We've got 595 millimeters as a total width, but we need to take into account our material thickness as well as our draw runner thickness and minus that off. So the easiest way I know how to do it is just stack it all together and measure that up. And then just give yourself a little bit of a wiggle room, so maybe 1 or 2 mil. I've got some long pieces of ply. I've just set up my bow extender fence. If you've just got one of these job site saws, this is a lifesaver. You can see just here in shot, we've got an out feed support and an in feed support. If you haven't seen these or watched a video on them, do it. Well worth the money. You'll make your life so much easier when using these small saws. But what it does mean is it throws out your table gauge. That's not accurate. So we're just going to have to set it up manually. Well, I've just made the first mistake. All these pieces I've just pocket hole need redoing. I made the mistake. These pocket holes are supposed to be on the front and backs of the drawers. Since these are going to be pulled this way, you want a shear force, so they need to go into there, so they're less like to bend and snap when they're like that. When they're that way, pull it, it's going to be easier for them to come apart. So instead of remaking these, I'll just line them up together. I'll just mark on here where these pocket holes aren't, redo them. So I get into solid wood rather than trying to drill into the holes that I've already made. And I think that's what I'm going to have to do now. Annoying, but these things happen. Alright, so what I've done is I've just cut the bases out. I didn't really have, this is 9mm, I didn't have much thin stock, so I didn't want to rebate it and inset it in. What we're going to do is just glue, brad nail just to hold it in place, and then we'll come back with some screws and countersink them in. Do that. Right, so what it's time for now is to put our side panels in that we cut out earlier. These should nicely fit in. And what I'll do is I'll mark out just on the sides here, pilot hole, and screw them in. Simple as that. What I have done is I've ran out of 12mm to make up the full 30mm offset that I needed. So I'm just going to use some scraps and strategically place them on here on the other side where I know my draw runners are going to screw into. So it doesn't matter, it don't need to be a full sheet. As long as this outside bit's a full sheet, that's what matters most. So I thought I recorded a lot of this, but I didn't. So I'm just going to quickly run through where I'm at. So at the top here, you can see I've installed my little spacer blocks to make them flush with the outside edge so I can get my drawer slides. Got one at the top, I just need to do the other side. Also done the big one down the bottom. Now what I'm just showing you is how I installed the drawer runners. You can get jigs like these Craig ones. Unfortunately, the opening in here didn't seem to work for them. So I'm going to have to measure this top one out rather than using a jig. But to do the bottom ones, all I did is get some scrap, lay them across there, then just rested my slides on top of these so I knew my gaps under there were absolutely perfect and should be absolutely level. Screw them in, attach them onto the sides of your drawer box. Easy as that. It's actually quite simple doing these bottom ones, so you can just use a bit of wood to rest everything on. As long as they're the same thickness, usually best to do it from the same board to make your cut-offs. It's actually quite simple to do. This top one on here is going to be a bit more difficult because I can't use it. Now I can try and cut a spacer out, but I've still got to do some measuring, so that's what I'm going to do next. Try and get these all installed. Alright, now we've got all our drawers installed. What we're going to do next is pre-drill for our hardware. So I had these handles lying about, so I'm just going to use them. And I'm going to utilize the Craig hardware jig. What you need to do is just find the center points. These have got 2 screw locations, so I've just gone with the inner ones. Set them up on here. You'll see some markings. And then set your depth. So this is, what is this now? 120 mil. So on the back, you can just see in there 5 mil increments there on the inside. I've set this to 60 mil. So that should then just line up on there. And I don't know if you can see it on here with this light, but you've got a 0 marker there. Found the center of my board. Line that line up with there. Get a 4.5 mil drill bit chucked up. And just drill your screw locations. Well, this is going to do 2 things. One, it's going to give you perfect spacing for when you screw your handle on. And 2, you can then use them holes to attach to the drawer before you screw in from the back. So let me crack on with that. So what I would suggest doing is turning it on its back so you don't have to fight gravity when installing these. So as you can see, I've pre-drilled all my holes for my hardware. What I'm now going to do is line all these up and then screw them onto drawers so then I can then screw them in from the back. So what we're going to do now is just going to cut the top down to size. I don't have a plunge saw, so I'm just going to use the Craig AccuCut to get me straight line rip. Quite affordable thing. I know Milescraft do one. The Craig one is one I bought, and it does a great job. You just got to make sure you set your saw and your rail up properly. Let's make this cut. What I've done now after cutting out the top is I've put it on my workbench. I've turned the whole thing upside down and laid it on there. So we're just going to drill a few pilot holes through the metal skin, screw it down. And we can flip it back up. Job's a good one. Final thing we're going to do is just chuck a round over bit into here and just knock the edges down off the top. Alright, there we have it. A £30 tool trolley made into a very usable piece of workshop equipment. Got my 3 drawers, 2 small ones, 1 big one. That's going to house all my jigs. It's got the plywood top. I decided not to go full width of the oscillating sander that I'm putting on there, just in case I wanted to change it out. I just did it the width of the actual trolley itself. I've just screwed it in from the bottom, so I can replace this if I ever need to. Around the back here, I've just put a magnetic tool holder strip that I had lying about. That will come in handy, I can imagine. The only other thing I did was upgrade the casters. The ones that came with the trolley was 2 swivel and 2 fixed. I didn't like that because it meant you had to pull it really weird. So I had these in the shop already, so I just put these full swivel brake casters on here, which makes it a lot better. That was quite easy. I will leave links below of where I got stuff. I'm not going to leave a link for the trolley itself because I bought it from one of our big box stores here, B&Q, and it came with scratches and chips and all sorts all over it. And when I went to customer service to get it resolved, they were basically having none of it. So I had quite a bad experience with that, so I'm not going to leave a link for this. I'll try and find one better suited, hopefully get a better customer experience than I did for one of these. But other than that, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something and you got something from this. If you did, please subscribe, like, share, whatever you want to do. As long as I've earned it, please do that. And I'll see you again on the next video. Thank you.